And here we go. Well, welcome to You Had Me at Halo's 56th episode as we delve into one of gaming's most storied franchises. And this week we are back for Hopium Part 2. We got some things to cover, some positive news in the world of Halo today, and so we're going to be talking about a Halo book that came out that's getting pretty good reviews. We have a drop pod update with some things that are coming very soon that were requested from the community, and we also have a lot more Forge links since the last time we met that we absolutely need to talk about. But before we get into it, let's go ahead and meet today's Spartan team. First up, we got Spartan Jesse, aka Mr. Down Cabeza. How's it going, Jesse?
I am doing well. I apologize to everyone on this site who's sick of seeing my face or hearing my voice. It's been a lot this week.
That's all right. Next up, we got Spartan Daniel, aka Mr. Knottian. Welcome back, Mr. Knottian.
What's going on? Good to be back. It's I'm going to try to keep it a little bit higher energy. I'm super exhausted after dealing with a month of crises after crises. So good to be back.
Well, yeah, it's good to have you back, man. Got some good stuff to talk about. Hopefully, kind of end the week on some positive notes here. Yeah. Next up, we got Spartan Austin, aka Mr. AustinFordGames. Still got to practice that. Sorry about that, Austin. But how's it going, man?
He pulled an Abe, and now his mic's off.
Look at that. I'm not. I didn't start off with the.
StreamYard's a tricky bitch. I run into it all the time. If anything changes, anything disconnects, it gets really annoyed and doesn't want to actually put your microphone back in. Sometimes.
Yeah, no joke. Okay, cool. Well, I am back. I'm doing really well. Thanks for having me, everybody.
Not all of you is back though. There's a whole bunch missing up top.
Yeah, I got rid of the hair. I don't know if you've heard, but it's been like 110 degrees down here with like 90% humidity for the last 4 months in a row or whatever. So got rid of it.
I know what that's like.
Well, you're looking good, Austin. Looking very much more aerodynamic. So yeah, very nice.
Thank you. It's all in preparation for my cross-Atlantic swim I'm taking next month.
Awesome. Well, we'll be cheering you on. But finally, it's your host, Spartan Abe. It's your host, Spartan Abe, aka OneBadMutha. And just kind of FYI today, be prepared for my stuff to my technical setup here to go out any second now. I feel like it feels like some Jenga blocks that we've exhausted all options on. So just forewarning for that. But let's get right into today's topics. I think what we'll do is we'll start off with something a little bit light, but actually pretty cool because, a new book came out. I'm not one of the readers in this group, but I actually am interested to jump into this one because it does tie into the games. Mm-hmm. And not only does it tie into the games, but apparently it seems like we have a pretty decent story that ties into the games. Isn't that right, Jesse?
Yes. So it is Halo, the Rubicon Protocol, and it's something a lot of people actually were thinking would work as like DLC content, but after going through the story, I don't think it would have. It's the 6 months in between the start of Halo Infinite, and it's very light spoilers for literally only the beginning of Halo Infinite. The opening cutscene all the way until when you start playing as Chief. So during that time period is when this book that they sent us. Thank you, Gallery Books, a division of Simon & Schuster. They sent us a review copy. I found a random email on their website and sent it, and they were like, "Hey, you look legit," and actually sent it to me. But so it's that 6 month period or so. I don't know if it goes right up to it because it actually kind of I think there's still more because it's pretty focused on a few groups that we meet in a sense through the audio logs that you find throughout the Halo campaign of sort of what's going on in this crazy time after Unity's gotten their ass kicked. They're stuck on the ring and they're trying to fight back against the Banished. And this is a lot a lot of filling in the blanks for what happened while Chief was out. So very good, very well written. It's written by Kelly Gay, who has done 2 previous ones, Renegades and Point of Light, which are both great and actually like feature 343 Guilty Spark. Like, they've been out long enough, I think I can say that. They feature 343 Guilty Spark, who survived getting blasted by the Spartan laser, believe it or not. And those books were really good. When I saw she was writing this one, I was happy because, much like Shadows of Reach, this is tied into Halo Infinite, much more intimately too. She was definitely boxed in on where she had to go, and I think it's kind of why the book got delayed as long. The book got delayed longer than the game. It was originally supposed to come out before the game, then got delayed and came out well after the game, probably because they changed so much of the story of the game that it was tying into. Yeah. So for having most likely to rewrite this book, it's excellent. Characters grow. It doesn't feel predictable, even though you know the general end game for some characters. They introduce enough new ones where you don't know what's going to happen. There's growth. Things feel earned, and it is one of the... There's some real war crimes in there. The Banished are not nice. There's really horrible things that happen in this book that were kind of very surprising. And yeah, I really enjoyed it.
So, Jesse, a few questions, because obviously we're not going to do spoilers today. We want to give everybody a chance to read it. We will do a spoiler cast on the book, in the near future. But I think a couple things that I think people might want to know if they, whether to jump in, because especially if you're like me and you're not somebody who's been reading all this, everything that's come out in the past.
I can tell you. Look right here. I even know what you're going to say. It is a Halo Infinite story. It is 100% tied to the game. You do not have to have read anything before it. Okay,
so they can go in this, only have played the games, and this could be their first book, and it's going to make sense to them. Okay.
Every character in it is either a part of Halo Infinite or made new for this book. It's not tied into any previous stories like that outside of the actual Halo games, and having some idea really of who the Banished are and what's been going on. Like even Cortana and all that stuff is just sort of mentioned as like the reason they're there, obviously, but for the most part, it's just a book about trying to survive and fight back. So it is 100% tied to the game. You're good to go.
And it also does sound like it can be dark at times, if people like stuff like that.
They don't hold back on what a brutal race of angry monkeys would do if something very bad happened to their homeworld.
Well, I feel like the Halo books have always done a pretty good job about showing the darker side of the universe.
This one,
some of the stuff that like the TV show kind of did really well, where it's just like, Jesus Christ, you cut that guy in half. I imagine this probably follows suit.
Ghost of Onyx was a lot like that, where I mean, both not just from the Covenant side, but you really kind of saw the evils of the UNSC pretty laid bare.
Yeah, this one's the evils of a very angry group of mercenary monkeys. Oh boy.
Well, I do like the dark stuff. I do wish that sometimes the Halo games would lean into some of the dark stuff that surrounds it more. And the fact that this ties in there, I don't know, maybe it gives us some hope. They could start explore some of those directions, because the Banished in the games don't get
with DLC. Much. I think they'll finally be able to do that more. Like the bigger Master Chief stuff might stay more grand. The military's pretty great type, but if you do more and hopefully much better ODST style stuff, because everyone knows ODST is the worst campaign. But I digress.
Oh my god! I forgot.
Sorry, it's not. There's
many a time.
There's plenty of good stuff in ODST, but it's got Adam Baldwin in it, and immediately it just nosedives all the way to the bottom.
Yeah, right. That's the one thing for Jesse.
How you doing, Gunny? Like,
the news, the views expressed by Jesse are not necessarily
not representative.
Represent everybody else.
The only one that's worth to play through is maybe 2's because it's so poorly balanced, but probably 1. But yeah.
What? Sorry, that was a high pitch. Any other questions for Jesse before he just continues to go off the rails and with any more bad opinions about the classics?
Does this book do anything, without spoilers, obviously, to help set up the universe that could persist post Infinite's campaign?
Yes. I think
That's
that was
the
one of the
most
things I
important
mentioned.
thing.
Yeah, because I tried to keep it spoiler free, but they hit the story beats of Infinite, and like the Harbinger and stuff's a part of it. All the stuff that we saw happen, all the stuff we saw the results of, like coming out of Outpost Harmonious and seeing the Harbinger's cradle and all that stuff. Like this is the time frame that happened, obviously. So like it ties into some of the greater story arcs, not even lightly, like pretty heavily, and gives indications of where I think that they want to go with things. So, and talks a lot about different biomes too. So, definitely have plans for that.
Look out, everybody!
We like biomes.
As we know, I think, who is it? I think this guy on the cover, and if you've ever done the audio logs in the game, he's still alive. Last we know from the game audio logs, Horvath. He's going to a snowy area, so I wouldn't be surprised if some DLC ever ends up in the snow.
Oh, well, it looks like we'll talk about it later, but we did see drops of snow in Forge, so that could happen here in the near future. So we do appreciate the update on that, Jesse, and I do think it was worth calling out, especially for anybody that is, like I said, even if you're not into reading a ton, this does give us some, because it does tie in so well to the games and the potential of what could be coming, right? A spin-offs, DLC, fleshing out more of the characters,
even
some things that
your books tied to Halo Infinite.
Yeah. So definitely a lot of good things. And I just realized my thing is going to probably die here because it's not plugged in. But anyway, so I'll probably just end up dropping off here in a second if I don't hurry up. But okay, let's go ahead and just FYI in that. So we will be doing a spoiler cast, probably just tie it into a show, and you guys can just clip out or tune off, I guess. We'll do that in the second half of a show coming up. And we will get into, for those of you who don't want to read but want to know a little bit more about what could be coming into the games, into the DLC, things like that, based on what's there, we'll be able to talk more about that. All right, so let's go ahead and move on to the next topic. And this week we had a drop pod finally, which had a lot of little updates, a couple that are key. But I'm going to turn it over to you, Austin, while I try to figure out make sure I don't go offline here any second. So take it away.
Yeah. So I'm sure if anyone hanging on the chat has been playing Halo recently, you notice you got a little update depending on which platform you were playing on. Determines about how big it was. I think on Steam is only like 250 megs. Pretty small update, but does bring some really promising stuff to it. Some stuff that people have been asking a lot for. Things like cross-core customization has finally introduced itself to the game. We have things like visors that are now available across all cores, which is super cool. Also super cursed. Some of the stuff that people are doing with like Emil's helmet makes it look like the Power Rangers, what's his name, like Zorban or whatever.
Zordon.
Yeah, Zordon. That was close. Some of that, the Mark 7 helmet attachments, not all of them, unfortunately, but a small handful of them. I think 3 or 4 of the Mark 7 helmet attachments are now available on all of the Mark 7 helmets, rather than just being locked to their specific helmet, which is dope. You love to see more customization stuff, and this is really, like a lot of this stuff in this drop pod, laying the groundwork for future iteration, future developments for the game, things that I think everyone's pretty excited about. Has anyone here gotten to jump in and play with the customization on their Spartans to see what kind of fun new stuff they can do with it?
Yeah, I haven't had too much time to play lately, but I did check in. I guess it was yesterday, and I've been using some of the entrenched armor, and so being able to actually use some of the really cool visors that I've gotten has been pretty sweet. And yeah, it's just nice because this is one of the things that I think many of us complained about for a long time with the customization, was that it was so limited, right? And obviously they kind of laid the groundwork for this a while ago in terms of detailing what they want to do, and this is the first step. So when we can really kind of do everything across every core, in terms of how you want to piecemeal your Spartan armor. I think that'll be
Right.
really cool. But at the moment, it's it's a great first step for sure.
Yeah, I agree completely.
Yeah, I think people want it when people do the customization thing. They want to feel like there's a part of their.
I mean, there's just ownership over your character, right? Like,
yeah,
Right.
the idea that there is, unfortunately, right now, still this pretty tight lock around customization. There's not a massive variety. There's a good amount of stuff, but a good amount of that even is paid content, right? So people want to feel like the stuff that they're earning from their battle pass is usable fully. I honestly, some of the coolest customization options in the game right now are the Rock Shaka core and the Freedom alt reality core from this most recent Fracture event. It'll be really cool to kind of piece some of that onto your like Mark 7 Spartan or your Mark 5B.
Yeah, that's what I've been using, is the stuff from Entrenched.
Yeah,
it's pretty rad.
On top of that, like the two like big things that they've done here is laid the groundwork for faster iteration for playlist activities. So not playlist activities, but multiplayer playlists. The first iteration of this that we've seen was an update to the Snipers playlist, which I believe is still active in the game right now. It may have gone active last week and now is ended by the time this podcast is up for people listening. But Snipers got a nice little revamp. They took some of the sillier game modes out, the more frustrating game modes, I would just say. So you're not getting like maulers and stuff in there. There is still brute snipers and then regular snipers. So really cool stuff. And then a ranked 2v2 playlist is coming next week, which is super exciting. I haven't been playing Halo Infinite lately, personally. I unfortunately was starting to run into the more obvious problems as the population kind of gets lower. But I'm excited to jump into a 2v2 playlist. Like a 2v2 playlist, I think will be well populated enough with it only having to find 3 other people, unless you bring a buddy in, then it only has to find 2 other people. So hopefully that playlist is nice and healthy when that kicks off. I'm excited about jumping into that. And then challenges have been added to the pause menu, which is like super, super cool. Your progress isn't tracked live during the matches yet, but they have said that they are trying to get that working. Unfortunately, because of the way the challenges update the game right now, they update when the match concludes. It will tally like the kills and stuff you get to add to the total. So they don't update in real time anyway. They only update at the end of matches. They're trying to get the functionality in there to make sure that works so that you can track your matches or your challenges while you're mid-match. Really, this is like I said, a lot of groundwork for the future versions of the game, future drop pods, future releases. This is kind of simple on the surface, but like what they're doing in the background right now, I think is really important for the life of Halo Infinite.
And add a little bit. Oh, go ahead. I'll let you talk, Daniel, since you took off last week.
I was just gonna say, there's some nice quality of life improvements. There's a couple other little things that they notated in the drop pod. But like in terms of the pause challenge, that's a big deal. And especially, I know that I'm one of those people that I'm not necessarily expecting the real time to ever happen, or if it does, it's awesome. But I also know that what that's going to it's going to create more calls during the match, more API calls. And so if their intent is to lower latency issues and things like that, and that were to counter that, I think that I would be more than happy to not have real time in the hopes that it's a noble sacrifice to the
performance
performance issues. Yeah.
And that's really the number one thing that sticks out to me. And you're right, Austin. Like, there's not like a single exciting thing, right? Like, if you're just a casual person, you come to this update. I've already seen the comments on Twitter. It's like, well, this isn't that big, but it really, this goes back to what I was saying a few weeks ago, before Forge comes out, before like you start putting some of these other things that will bring back the casual players or the mainstream, or, even our friends, or even, or you, like more often, they got to nail down the fundamentals. I think that is like the thing that's really stuck out to me over the last couple months, is that I keep thinking is like before Forge comes out, like I'm super excited about that. We're going to talk about that soon. They really have to nail these fundamentals because you can bring everybody back, but at that, even if they don't understand technical issues, even if they don't understand desync, even if they don't understand that they're playing with people that are just kind of mishmash from different parts of the world, like all this stuff it builds up, right? It's kind of like in I think it's the most important thing right now, even more than the content. The content will. The content won't matter if the fundamentals aren't there to support it. And so I'm happy that they're doing this. Listening to kind of some of the things that Joe's been saying. We already talked about in the past. We know we all wish things were in better shape today, but based on where things are at today, this is the right priority right now, is for them to get all hands on deck to get the fundamentals of this game back in order. So that's
the point of the drop pods, right? Like it was never about, I think maybe expectations are incorrectly set for some of these updates. Like, yeah, they did say that some drop pods might bring some pieces of content, but that for the most part, these are meant to be quality of life improvements.
Yeah.
That we will start to see more and more frequently, and things like the August drop pod laying a lot of foundation work for like backend updates is a huge part in seeing these more consistently. Huge part of seeing more iterative content. A big part of just the game generally improving. Like you said, if Joe Schmo, who's a casual Larry, jumps in and doesn't understand like why his shots aren't registering, is just going to be frustrated about it. The point of these updates is so that when, in a few months, his friends that are way more hardcore about the game convince him to jump back into it again once Forge is out or co-op is fully released, that the gameplay is more satisfying. And he doesn't even think about the fact that his shots didn't register in the past because the game just feels right now.
Right. And when this game works, it feels like a different game, for anybody. And I know not everybody experiences the same issues that I do. And it varies across the board. But I have heard from friends that
I think you're making it up.
Yeah. But other friends have actually have reported some things. And I think as the community kind of shrunk and they spread out the player pool, they probably accentuate some of the netcode issues. But in addition to even talking about the netcode or like the region select, which I think is important, because sometimes I just find myself working better in certain regions. It's not always the closest one's the best. Sometimes the closest one might have the most congestion, so I'm hoping that we get some granularity with that option. But in addition to that, they've been tweaking other aspects like the rocket launchers, for example, right? Like,
I mean, I really want to jump in right now because one of the things that they call out are weapons like the sidekick. Hit registration on headshots on an unshielded player is supposed to be more consistent. Like that sounds like such a small thing on paper, right? But like,
right.
Say you're a huge SWAT fan and it's all unshielded, like it just makes your shots feel more consistent. Not easy, but like smaller things like that, smaller things on paper probably did take dozens of hours. Yeah, Daniel.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I mean, the matches that I played the other day, definitely, I mean, I don't think I could recall a single moment where it felt like desync, and it could just be the smaller population being paired with people in my area better, whatever it may be. But I know that I was playing. I think one of my challenges was for SWAT, and it turned out to be a sidekick SWAT match instead of a VR, and it definitely felt better. And I think, in terms of what you were saying about the expectations of drop pods, I think people that have other expectations, that's on them, because from the get-go,
100%,
they've been pretty clear. But like things like the visors being customizable across cores, it's one of those things that like you said, it may not seem like much on paper, but the amount of rendering, alone that they had to do across the board for that, it was probably a decent chunk of time. So I think,
I mean, think about like people complaining about some of the attachments that weren't lining up perfectly, and
right.
like the amount of time it took for them to fix that. It's not because they're lazy developers or the engine is inherently obtuse. I'm sure that the engine still has, remnants of Bland's complications. That wouldn't surprise me one little bit. I think more so that it was something that just took time. and them doing stuff like the visors and getting in there and, you know, kind of tearing apart the system as it exists now and rebuilding it so that it all works better will help with things like that in the future. If, you know, if an arm attachment doesn't fit correctly, or if like, oh man, this new core is so cool, and like the customization pieces on it are super dope now, just inherently, because it's a new core, it's new pieces, I can just throw them on my Mark 7. I can just throw them on my Rakshaka. Like, that's super cool. Like, all of this is incredibly important foundation work.
And one of the main things with it is they have a list of priorities, and sometimes things that people really want just aren't going to be at the top of the priority list. So it's going to take a while they're in the middle of what's obviously been hiring up and catching up on certain things, like in a real sprint to try and healthily finish off co-op and mission select, that some things are just going to take some time.
Now, the couple other things that did stick out to me, and I don't know if this stuck out to anybody else, but when they talked about like the ranked playlist, they talked about laying groundwork for future ranked things. So it does sound like there's some things happening, and I think you might have alluded to this a little bit, Austin. But
he did.
Okay. But yeah, it's like to do things faster, and it. To me, that like kind of that really stood out, especially with some of these Forge things that have been leaking. I'm like, the first thing you start thinking about is how quickly you're going to be able to implement this stuff. What if a mode comes out that that's created within the community that people really are really digging? How fast are you going to be able to integrate that into the playlist? What if it's worthy of somebody really figures something out and it's worthy of a ranked list? Right?
Well, I mean, and not even necessarily a ranked list, but it's a bummer because it all seems retroactive, and unfortunately nothing in game dev is 100% retroactive. People point things out super early on in development. Unfortunately, some things are just moved around, like like Jesse said with their like priority list. Like, some things are just more important than others. We saw the community like just about go and burn the studio down during winter break because they wanted a Slayer playlist. The stuff that they're doing here for like their ranked playlists, iterations and stuff like that will make it so that when the Forge community comes up with some cool maps or some cool custom games for those maps, that they can't just be like, hey guys, next week it's in the game, and you'll be able to queue it up in a playlist. That's not a guarantee. That's not something that I'm hearing from developers. That's just like an assumption I'm making based off of like this groundwork that they're laying. They put this update out on Tuesday, I believe. And they're like, hey guys, in a week we're gonna have a 2v2 playlist in ranked. Like, it will have ranked parameters, which is super cool. You'd have to imagine that social playlists are even less complicated to put legs under and get standing and start running with.
Well, one of the things that keeps standing out to me is when Joe was when he came out earlier this year and he says we're kind of like some of the stuff is going slower so we can go faster in the future. And I'm like, okay, what the heck does that mean? And so part of me, like, I start seeing some of these things and it's like, because I don't feel, I know like a lot of people feel like, hey, that's just kind of blowing smoke up your ass. But I do think that he's being serious about it. And I think that's worth holding on to that fact, that I do think that they are trying to figure out how down the road. The thing is, it's kind of like living check to check, right? Like, if you're always living check to check, it's hard to get out of it, but it's hard, you just get it stuck in a cycle and you always feel like you're on your heels. But I feel like they're trying to build up some, you have to eventually to make some decisions to get yourself out of that cycle. Right. And I think that if they can get things a little bit, running better with whether it's the game engine, whether it's the underlying things that are supporting all these playlists, because like you mentioned, when they updated that Slayer playlist, everything freaking broke, and I think that hurt the game a lot in December when that happened.
Yeah, it's precisely to avoid tech debt, which is, I see that thrown around so much and it's always incorrectly used. But tech debt is essentially, taking a shortcut now to get something done, but that you end up paying for, taking the short route that fixes this one specific issue or addresses this one specific method, but you end up paying for it later because then you have to go back and rewrite said thing so that it's applicable to more than just one element in development, right? So like that's I think what they're doing right now, and in terms of what they've done over the past year in terms of being able to get hoppers out faster, getting those mode changes out faster. We saw last year what happened when they took that shortcut, right? And so now I think they finally built the systems, or they've wrangled the blam code that they needed to out of it so that they can get those out faster. But whatever the case may be, it's all to avoid tech debt.
Yeah. All right, so decent updates for people that are paying attention to the fundamentals. I like at least where things are going and what and kind of where their focus is. As an aside, Austin, you mentioned the sniper playlist. For people who don't know, it's if you are a sniper fan, it's 75% just snipers now. You still have to play with the damn skewer like 15% of the time or something, which is stupid still. But anyways, I'll take it. It's less than it used to be.
Hey, you just gotta get good, man. Is really what it comes down to.
I mean, hey, I'm right there. I suck with the skewers, so I'm right there with you. But
I don't even.
I mean,
when I was still playing every day, I loved the damn thing. Like even when you miss shots, it's almost satisfying. It's like damn it, I gotta get you.
Yeah, I mean, it's very much. I think it's a little bit more. I'm probably gonna get skewered for this, no pun intended. But it's a little bit more skill based because I feel like you have to understand the travel, the projectile a little bit more than you would with the sniper. So
you need vehicles in there to make that work.
Yeah,
well.
you missed my dad joke from earlier. So well.
Oh man! All right, cool. So, all right. So all this stuff, as we kind of hinted a few times now, all this moves us towards the near future, which is we have a beta coming up in September, and there's been leaks on that beta. So we've seen things, and we talked about this last show, but we definitely want to come back to it because more and more things keep coming out the longer people have access to some of the underlying tools. Oh, there's that cat. No.
No, cat, no.
I'll be off the show. He's going to hit a wire.
Don't do an alinity no. Don't do the alinity and then just throw him behind your head. That's when you get in trouble. So don't give him any vodka.
Hey, he was trying to
all of these
setup
rules.
here. I know. Oh man, but we definitely we have to talk about this Forge thing because I won't get into my big picture.
has acknowledged it more than enough. Like between Joe Staten retweeting a video of a compilation of cool stuff that people are making, to people that were in the Forge. Oh God, what is the Forge Council? Yeah, getting permission to stream themselves using it. Like
only
Duquesne 23.
only
commented
the
on it.
broken build.
Well, yeah. But like Duquesne 23, who's like the big race guy. If you're a Halo community member that's been around the block a little bit, you've probably run into Duquesne. Super cool, super nice. He and his wife gave me a badge to a convention one time because they had to leave early. But the fact that they were like, yeah, like whatever, go ahead, Forge to your heart's content, stream some cool racetracks, have a good time. It's our fault that the build is in the game. It's been super cool to see some of the unbelievable stuff that people have come up with.
Well, you know what's been encouraging? So you mentioned the developers are now acknowledging stuff because they weren't at first. And part of me is like, okay, what's the catch? Are people running this thing on some super high powered, super duper PC, and we'll never be able to recreate this, these things on the Series X? And we're kind of seeing stuff on the budget. And then one of the developers just came out here a couple days ago on Twitter and basically talked about how proud he was getting this to be this efficient. Like it looks like this is you're going to be able to make these things run on, lesser hardware. And
anything you put in is set to a budget that should work on Xbox One.
Yeah.
So,
and that's
and the way, one of the main ways they did that is just being able to completely stretch one piece. So you can have, oh, I need to build a mountain in the back. Okay, I'm not gonna have a bunch of weird containers or shapes and just try and make something. I can literally just stretch this rock until it's an entire cliff face, and it's just one part of my budget. Like that type of stuff that took a lot of work to make happen because the textures have to look right, and they do. Being able to deform the ground and have everything still look correct is like this guy freaking built a goddamn house out of pieces like this. It's just
like
incredible.
We had mentioned it very briefly last time we got together, but one of the cool things that they're doing with the terrain editing this time around is that it's a universal terrain. Like you can adjust it and play with it and do all that fun stuff. But some of the editing that we saw in Livefire had like a manipulated like terrain piece floating above Livefire's terrain, and it just had Livefire's terrain textures painted over the top of it, and you could do some really cool stuff with that. It's really cool to see like the insane amount of work that went into Infinite's like graphical engine to be able to in real time with no issues render textures being stretched and manipulated and shrunk and do all this cool stuff and react to it quickly enough so that things aren't distorted when you set it down, so that things look the way that they're going to look in the game while you're still manipulating them. I had such high expectations for this Forge, and we haven't even seen the final product yet, and already it's blown my expectations out of the water.
And I think they've already confirmed, so we can say this, that this is an older build of Forge.
Oh yeah. What were you going to say, Daniel?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I mean, a couple things. For one, Abe and I were talking about Forge being, at least what we heard about months ago, this being kind of like the Minecraft for Halo, and going to really bring that side of the community back in full force. But to all the things that I've kind of said about like the efficiencies that they've had to build in the slip space and its handling of LODs and all this other kind of stuff. Clearly, this is where you're really getting to see that shine more so than, arguably a campaign that was probably piecemealed together at the last minute because they, put so much threw so much out. But now you're really getting to see how this engine is really that next gen engine that were promised, right? Because like you said, you're making all these adjustments on the fly. The budgets that I've seen, and I only got to catch up kind of today, but the budgets that you're seeing compared to Halo 5 are insane. The amount that you can throw in any given level, the scripting that you can throw in, the biome layering, like you go through the list of I think Abe sent us something earlier today to for us to pick one favorite thing or whatever about Forge. I'm like, I don't know if I can, because like so much of the stuff as a nerd, as a scripting nerd, like that's incredible. The complete transformation that you can give maps that came with the game, incredible. The things that you can do from a weather and biome stance in your own creations. Again,
I mean, just the fact that the budget will manipulate its usage percentage based on singular items being used, right? Like a tree, let's say a tree is worth 1%, but you shrink it down and now it's worth 0.5%, or you blow it up and now it's worth 1.5%, 2%. Like the fact that, like Jesse was saying, that this budget is way more than just you have X number of objects that you can place on a map now is unreal. Like the stuff that people were able to pull off, especially later in Halo 5's lifespan, with those tools versus this, and this already, I still like last time we got together, I said I think the best thing that they could do for a Forge like reveal event, right, would to be to like show us a multiplayer map and then turn into the monitor and delete a portion of the map and be like, this is a Forge map. I believe now more than I did a few weeks ago that like, oh my God, that's totally possible. They could 100% pull that shit off. And it's just going to blow everybody's mind. I saw somebody make like a little avatar scene, like James Cameron's avatar scene on Catalyst yesterday. And I was like, how the fuck did you make the plants blue already, man?
I mean, the black and white holes that somebody built, like that's insane. So basically you're throwing all these objects into a grav center that then spits out somewhere else from a white hole. Like that's just it's just incredible. the possibilities are limitless, and I cannot wait.
I loved the campaign's teleporters continue carrying momentum, whereas like that hasn't really been a thing in the past.
Right.
I just can't wait to see like what silly shit you can throw through a teleporter at 1,000,000 miles an hour. Like, you thought Speed Halo was fun in Halo Reach? Like, it's gonna be bananas in this game, man. I can't wait for that.
Yeah, people are gonna remake Portal. I've already seen like bits of that, just like remaking the entire campaign of Portal 1 and 2 in
Half-Life, like being able to like make your Sentinel beam into a gravity gun kind of stuff. It's like I know that like one of Abe's buzzwords is Delta when it comes to like the visual parity between developer made maps versus Forge maps. And
I haven't used all my buzzwords, but
we're still early, still an early night. But like, it's not even just the visuals. It's going to come down to like the gameplay mechanics that are possible with Forge and with custom games. And I gotta say, like, I've been bummed out the last few weeks. I haven't wanted to play Halo at all, unless it's like MCC stuff that I'm still fiddling with. But I am so excited for this. It almost feels like Halo Infinite's not even out right now. Like, this almost feels like a proper relaunch of the game for me.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that, because like there's so many things I wanted to like I could probably just take another 2 hours.
Jesse got the fucking avatar thing.
There it is. So like when you talk about Forge, just like you could talk about the aesthetic ability, like the visual delta that like just the amount of detail that, and keep in mind, most of what we've been seeing so far has been just a fraction of what's possible in terms of the detail, because people had not been able to save. I think maybe recently some people have been able to start saving them, but like up until very recently, most of what we've seen is what people can create in a few hours, and it's only been a fractions of the budgets, and there's so much detail that goes there. But it's not just that; it's the game design possibilities that I feel like is being completely under the radar. Just the modes, and we'll come back to that, because I do want to. We'll start talking about that with some of the potential of this mode. But Austin, like you, I mean, I still been playing it, but I've been like you, I've been down on kind of where it's been, between some of the issues, and then like it. And then you just news comes out that it's, like you're going to have to wait until we get to this thing. And I get it. Like, so I'm with a lot of people when it comes to some of the frustration, but then I look at this and I do feel like this, I want to temper like myself somewhat, because like, I feel like I can sometimes jump on a unicorn when I see something cool and just fly away with it. But
what part of the unicorn are you jumping on?
Yeah, never mind. But this really, I'm looking at this, and this looks like Roblox for adults, right? Like, or this looks like it has potential to go beyond the base multiplayer that we have, like beyond just the content thing. I think there's potential to come out of this that maybe we can't even think of right now, because if people are doing the things that we've seen in just a few days, right, or just a few weeks, with with older build, very limited, like you can't save, a lot of limitations, and they're already coming up with cool stuff, and it's just a handful of people. What happens when this blows out there to everybody, right? And this is why I keep going. Earlier in the show, I was talking about the fundamentals. Like, you get that stuff right, because when this comes out, it has potential to be its own thing. Like, it doesn't compare to previous Halos because of all the scripting that's available, because of the budget. The budget's a huge part of it, and and I don't
eclipse the old ones. Or
and it makes you rethink about the slip space. Like I just a few weeks ago, I'm like, maybe they should have, huh?
I was saying from the get-go, like I've talked to more than a handful of people at 343, and for all the haters out there in terms of like
Abe
Sim engine,
I've been a hater sometimes. I'll admit it.
I mean, this is proof to everything that I was told, that the state of the engine, like, this is one of the primary things that it was built for, and it handles it better than almost any other engine in terms of content creation.
I hate to be this guy about it, because like, holy shit, like seeing what they're able to do with Just Forge, this makes me want more than maybe ever a linear Halo campaign. Like, because like some of the insane stuff they were able to pull off with like a massive open world, I'd love to see them like entirely curate like a few linear levels, and not like linear, like Doom or anything like that, but more like Assault on the Control Room kind of stuff. These large sprawling levels.
Yeah, I think we could. I mean, even just dropping next gen for future content releases, I think would help.
Or last gen?
Last year.
Yeah.
No, drop next gen. Only release on Xbox One.
Well, the funny thing is, in my head, it went like, just put it on PC, and I was like, okay.
From the future. Oh man.
Well, the PC community is going to start making mods off this stuff, right? Like,
well, that's the funny thing is, most of the people that I've seen forging in real time are using a fucking controller. Mm-hmm. Like, I can't wait to see. Not that you can't be a good forger with a controller. I mean, obviously, look at these guys, right? But yeah, there's a skill ceiling. Your forge aim assist is bad. But like the stuff that you're going to be able to do with even more precision and there are communities of people that only but only make maps for whatever multiplayer game has a cool map editor out at that time. And I can't wait to see, like, DS Omen in the chat said, do you think that Forge could get some of the Fortnite custom map community into the game? Like, absolutely. The game, like, this is the biggest thing with this game being free to play, is that it's free to play. Like, that means Forge is free to play. That means multiplayer is free to play. Like, this is the benefits of the game going free to play happening in real time.
So, Austin, you were talking there, and like 3 squirrels like jumped out, and I wanted to chase them. They all went running in different directions. But you talked about, like the free to play aspect. Don't forget too, you're going to have kids being able to stream and build stuff on iPads, right? Like my little dude all he does is sit on his iPad. He's got an Xbox in his room. He uses it to stream YouTube while he's on his iPad building stuff in Minecraft. I don't fucking get it. I gave him Game Pass. He watches YouTube and plays on and builds stuff on his iPad because that's what how he likes to build
Ground
stuff.
him.
I know. I don't know what's going on there, but
you done fucked up, kid.
And you Roblox just sold for $40 freaking billion. What is it? Last year or the year before? Like you got to think about, and this is why I say, like, I'm trying to temper myself because I'm gonna get myself all excited. And there's always this part of being a Halo fan. It's kind of like being a Detroit Lions fan. It's like, you're like, okay, where's the catch? But honestly, I look at the potential, and I look at the fact that now it's going to be everywhere. You don't even need to have a local device. You can you don't latency doesn't matter, right? When you're building stuff like that.
How about more like a Dallas Cowboys fan? Because they actually won one time in their history. Okay,
yeah.
They've been dog shit since. Like, the Lions just never win.
Yeah, we won one playoff game in our lifetimes, but in my lifetime, actually, for sure. But the thing is, I'm looking at that. I'm thinking about the access of this, the fact that it's going to be on PC, it's going to be on mobile devices, it's going to be on anything you got a screen on. You can start building stuff in here, and you look at what's been popular amongst these, kids that are turning, that are the kids, or even the ones that are 18 or in young 20s, like. There's whole communities for just building stuff, right? And showing stuff off. And the more I see with this, and keep in mind too, we're not even seeing the option for baked in lighting and stuff like that. That's going to make these things look better. This is the very, very tip of the iceberg. And we're already seeing really cool stuff visually and even game design. Like you mentioned, the Portal stuff. And, I think about, you get in the PC community who even takes mods even further. They break stuff and do stuff you're not even supposed to. Somebody's probably going to build a linear Halo campaign with a mod, right?
Like I was saying, what Halo 5's Forge was capable of, especially some people are still using it to block out sort of what they want to do with Infinite's Forge when it releases. I think what we're thinking is going to be capable, or what our imaginations are able to come up with right now for Forge, are probably going to be the only thing that limits the actual creation of maps in this game. Like watching this dude play with this right now, this looks so much like the Bethesda mod tools. It's not even funny. Like this, they're basically handing over the Slip Space Engine keys and saying like, "Fucking your turn, dudes." This just looks unreal.
No, it looks
Yeah.
like Slip Space. Oh, you didn't need.
Damn it.
I was wondering who was gonna drop it.
Oh man, yeah.
Normally me. I go for the easy ones.
But you know,
I did that
Nadia.
earlier. Nobody. It just like went over everybody's damn head.
Well, Nadia, going back to the other squirrel that you kind of brought up earlier with the game engine. Remember when they were talking about Slip Space like a few years ago? You know, the promises, and we look at today and like the content's coming out slower. And we're like, okay, we didn't get it, but they were talking about like, we want this to be modular. We want this to allow us to create content faster. And I feel like what we got was, you know, kind of built, you know, maybe some of the issues are it wasn't, you know, to finish, right? Like basically, let's just be honest. Like there's still things. I mean, that's why we don't have Forge yet. But now you kind of start to see that. You start to see the flexibility with it, and the fact that, you know, like unlike previous games, the reason this has a bigger budget, like it's smart about what it's rendering, right? Like what it's processing and things like that. And then you start to understand that stuff, like. The fact that you've been able to see super high, you know, you've been able to see some high levels of detail in some of these that are only using a fraction of the budget, built on top of existing, you know, canvases, right? Like they're built on top of other maps. That shows you to me, that's as impressive as anything. That's as impressive as any graphics or anything else, because it just shows you that efficiency is going to allow people to do things faster, because the less you have to work with, you know, the more time you spend trying to squeeze everything you can out of it, right? So I do think that's going to give people, just everyday people, more flexibility to not be as smart with that efficiency, and it just really kind of starts to highlight some of the advancements that are made with this engine that we didn't really know about, and it really aren't apparent with the game we have as of, you know, August 11th, 2022.
Right. And I mean, what we're seeing with Forge, you know, is it's all that coming to fruition, right? Instead of dealing with the tech debt that we saw at launch, but they're still dealing with on the PvP side of things in terms of content creation, they could have released Forge at launch and it been problematic, to say at best, right? But instead they avoided taking all those shortcuts and you know, built tailored for the engine at its, you know, whether we want to call it finished state or not. But you know, I think it's going to pay off, as we've clearly seen from, you know, builds old versions of Forge thus far.
Yeah, I think and like, this is me being someone who's just like constantly thinking about like what's next, is if this is what like the potential of the Slip Space engine can give us, is this ridiculously good looking Forge. I can't wait until the developers just get to spend more and more and more time improving on these tools and learning what works well and what can be avoided for future content, period. Like, Forge looking this good is only going to make developer-made maps look better in the future. Developer-made maps looking better in the future is only going to lead to an even prettier campaign. Like, this is way more than just you know, moving a porta potty in Halo 3. This is building the future of the franchise.
Yeah.
Well,
well, I was going to say, some, you know, you mentioned the campaign. Some of the things that I've seen look better than some of the stuff in the campaign somehow.
Oh, yeah,
I mean, I don't agree at all.
It's kind of like what I was just saying about the tech debt and the you know, what we saw at launch, and still, like, in a year or 2 years, I would not at all be surprised, and I've been saying this for a while, I would not at all be surprised if we see Slip Space 1.1 rebaked into the campaign or PvP, just like we've seen with State of Decay 3 times now. I would not be surprised at all to see, especially if they drop next or last gen. Jesus.
It's the cool thing that Bungie's been doing, even with every Destiny release, they update some of that game's visuals, and have even started to go back to older content that still exists in the game, and updating it to have parity with. Fuck off. To have parity with the newer stuff. It's been super cool, and like I don't think that there's anything keeping 343 from being able to do the same thing. Hopefully, if it's still something that they're planning on bringing to the game. But hopefully when ray tracing comes to the game, they have a way to rebake a lot of the lighting, and readdress some textures and just improve the game a ton.
Yeah. But LOD handling.
Yeah, all of it.
Text resolution.
The Halo 3 remake we've been waiting forever. Let's just do that in Forge.
Dude, I would do anything. I would do anything.
Eat a puppy.
They're always bad.
You might want to
eat a puppy raw, like your the deep in.
Oh my god!
What?
This is terrible. Oh, you haven't watched The Boys yet. He hasn't watched The Boys.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But like, no sexual favors off the table. Like, you name it, I'll do it. I promise. Just give me a Halo 3 anniversary with like blur cutscenes.
Lumpkin Ted Cruz.
Look, everything has a price.
That's a low price, man.
Oh my god! All right, that's got okay. Somebody save us! Somebody save us, Daniel.
I'll bite it off.
This is awful. All right, man. I had some other thoughts, and they all just like all my squirrels right away.
Not to wrap this up or anything, but Jesse, do we have any community questions this week?
We do have 3 of them.
Sure.
They're all about PvE and co-op. None of them.
I'm here for it. Let's hear it.
All right, let's do it.
All right, let me get.
Oh, also, real quick, while you're pulling that up, if you have not already. The most exciting thing, and like it is what it is, right? But like the most exciting thing happening in Halo for me right now is the Master Chief Collection content that's being brought into the older games that were removed before these games ever released, like the potential for the Halo 2, all that stuff. All 3 parts of that blog are now available. If you go to HaloWaypoint.com, it's the drop disclosure blog post that went up today, August 11th. Please go pull up that post, go read through all 3 of those blog posts. I know they're long as hell, but there's so much cool information in there, and they're bringing all of that shit to the Master Chief Collection. I can't stress enough how fucking exciting that is for anyone that's ever been a Halo fan. Can't wait to play the Halo 2
game a 10 for a
campaign
reason.
mission.
Yep.
Hey, before we go into community questions, I did want to. So, everybody, before we just move on from Forge, just name one thing that maybe we didn't already talk about that you saw that maybe the community doesn't know about, that gives you kind of paint some of the picture of the excitement that we're of why we're so excited, because I don't think we really delved into like the scripting and some of the other stuff that we saw that are really going to affect some of the game modes and all that. Do you guys have anything that jumps out?
Yes. I mean the bot scripting. You can we could essentially get endless PvE content, much in the same way that like Dreams and some of those other games were promised to build something like that. We're getting all that in Forge. So being able to essentially make your own game modes with AI, it's the possibilities are limitless. So I'm excited.
Yeah, the bot scripting is a great one that we didn't really point out. Jesse, anything for you?
The rumor that it is tied intrinsically into certain affinities, big mode, which would make,
we didn't even touch on that. That opens up a whole freaking. If you now start adding editing tools to BR, combine the 2 things that these kids love. That's like the kids too. Those are the 2 favorite things of kids these days. 3 favorite things: free games, creative stuff, and BR.
And vapes.
Throw it all together.
BR.
Oh yeah, BR. That's a good call out, Jesse. Austin, how about you, man?
I mean, I don't know, man. Like, I think as far as Forge is concerned, the thing that I'm the most excited about, and I did mention it, but is like silly custom game stuff. Like if we get a custom games browser, even
you get this little small area that's little tiny rooms, and there's a bunch of elevators. Everyone's got a teleporters. Everyone's got a shotgun, and you keep going through them. Oh, that'd be cool.
Oh my god, we don't. Whatever mode Soul comes up with, just scratch those off the list. Don't bother downloading.
But like Ninja Slayer is so much fun with like the swords and grappling hooks. I can't wait to see people come up with some like wacky shit with Forge maps. Like we've already seen people have made like destructible environments in Forge with scripting. Can't wait. Like, I mean, destructible environments, if I had to name like one Forge thing that we've seen from the community already, like the fact that people have been able to make things take varying levels of damage depending on what kind of projectile hits it and where, that's super exciting. I love that.
Oh, your cat's behind you, be careful.
And maybe building on that. Cat, look at that. Don't come any closer. Building on that, the scripting we saw for the physics with the different weapons, where you could, they created that cyclone or whatever, where they picked up all the blocks and basically they created like a little mini black hole or something with it. I mean, I was
talking about earlier with the black holes and the white holes.
Yeah, I mean that stuff is like you just basically So, anyways, can't wait to see what modes. I'm excited about the modes. Like even more than the maps, I'm excited about like what are some of the game modes that we don't even know exist today that somebody's gonna dream up with all these custom ability options with the scripting.
Only.
So, yeah. Okay.
Give me Nyan, Kitty, Master Chief, Tron bicycles.
Yeah. Skewers with 10x speed. No, I'm just kidding. All right.
Somehow lock the map directly above, and you got Master Chief, and he's got a Nyan cat head, and he's got Rambo behind him, and then you're doing the Tron cycle stuff.
Dude, if someone using Forge can write a script that makes it so that when I get skewered, my body sticks to the wall, already better.
Yeah. And they just call it the fear mod.
Oh my god. Imagine like a horror, like somebody make a horror scenario, and you just have a bunch of Spartans stuck to walls from skewers, and oh man, just the tone. It'd be rad.
And eventually they'll probably have flood models and stuff in there.
Yep.
So,
well, yeah, they're gonna add assets, right? We know that's probably gonna come with new.
No, Trav's got it. He wants Hello Kitty Island Adventure inside Forge.
Yeah. All right. Good call, Travis.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, hey, Halo Kitty, yeah. All right. Well, okay. Go on to the community questions. Good call.
This question is from 11 days ago when we were going to go live and then delayed to have more stuff to talk about. From Anorexic. Hello, Spartans. I'm excited about the possibilities of Forge, but I also know that discoverability, shareability, and promotion is key to leveraging user-generated content. I think 343 knows this as well, because if they pull off the discoverability right, this takes the weight of the world off their shoulders when it comes to creating content for players to engross themselves in. The other challenge is that people need to be able to play these experiences with other people, friends or strangers, in a convenient fashion. What do you think 343 needs to do to leverage Forge properly? Is a custom games browser critical? Does 343 have to promote maps and games types through matchmaking? Secondly, I haven't played Halo 5 online at all, but it sounds like they got it right in that game. Do you all agree with that, or am I mistaken? I wouldn't be bothered if the Forge preview required us to visit each other's files to try new maps and modes, but I do think having something more than that is critical when Season 3 starts.
Yeah. Well, Anorexic, first of all, you're never wrong. That's a good call out on that.
Yeah, half the Halo creator community is entirely focused on it and assuming it's not going to happen, just so they can ship it.
I mean, it goes back to what we were talking about earlier with all the potential. You can have all the potential in the world, but you need to cultivate it and like browsers, the community options, having custom games work, being able to integrate this within playlists quickly. This goes back to the fundamentals, right? So that's all fundamentals. And yes, they absolutely, those supporting features will have exponential impact on where this goes, whether this is, it realizes its potential or not, right? But Austin, you were going to talk. Go ahead, man.
No, I think that custom games browser is incredibly important. I don't think it's necessarily required. Like, look, if 343 could literally just give us a carbon copy, and I know that that's virtually impossible, but a carbon copy of what Bungie did with Halo 3's file browser, where like it's in the pause menu, they have recommended, they have just maps, they have just game modes, they have a Bungie's Bungie's Halo 3 file share was a Bungie's favorites. But like, even if they just show off like 20 or 30 files at a time in the pause menu, basically on the main menu screen, then I think that that's enough to at least jumpstart it. I do think the most important thing is what you were saying, Abe, is a quick playlist iteration. Get the maps and modes into rotation as quickly as possible, even if it's, hey, every weekend we're going to have a community generated content playlist where it's just modes and maps that the community has made. It's live from Friday till Monday morning. Get in and have fun. I think that even something like that would do a ton for the game, because just like every Halo game since Halo 3, every multiplayer game and map that you play gets added to a temporary file share in your inventory or whatever. All you have to do is go in and make sure you save it, and then it's in your games list. I think that making sure that that's easily visible to users is really the only thing that's important or is required. Custom games browser would be a massive help and a massive plus, but I don't think it's required for it to succeed.
Yeah, I don't good call out. Anybody?
And Halo 5 did not do it well. It took Halo 5 3 years to figure out how to make that happen.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't think custom games browser is a necessity. I think it's helpful, but more importantly, I think having a proper like featured and hot what's hot now, voting and all those kind of mechanics that helped. Because if I remember right, I mean, I really liked how Reach did it as well, especially in terms of discoverability on what was popular. So if they just do proper make it easy to vote on what you like, what you don't like, so that the trash goes to the bottom and we get the good stuff at the top, and then having those filter into matchmaking maps. That is the one thing that I think 5 did really well, was that a lot of Forge maps got into matchmaking a lot for obvious reasons. So if you just do a combination of the both of those two things, I think it'll definitely help from the discoverability front.
Yeah, and some of those things sound so simple, but they make a big difference. Like even in sports games, you go download a roster, you see like what people vote, what are people downloading and what is like the highest rated, what are the most downloaded. Just stuff like that helps a lot for somebody who's just coming to the game new. But I think also it's the stuff outside the game too. It's going to be how they promote, hey, like on Twitter, like just constantly calling out, look at the maps of the community made maps of the week, it's like stuff like that. So I think all that's going to play a part as well. Just awareness, right? Yeah.
Discoverability is key. Like that's I know that sounds incredibly obvious, but even if for the first few months we have to go to Halo Waypoint to make sure that we can find the stuff that the community is enjoying the most, as long as there's an avenue for it, right? Like I think honestly, for me, one of the most disappointing things about Halo Infinite right now is Halo Waypoint's functionality. That recently got a bit of an update, and like there's way more information on there now, but it's still incredibly limited. I think that if they can allocate resources to Waypoint being updated, especially when Forge releases, then I think that that's a huge step.
Good calls.
I concur. Right.
Next question
from Jesse Brother. Get tactical, Marines. Welcome back, panel. I know everyone is excited for the Forge coming out. It's kind of small. Let me make it bigger so I can actually read it. And for good reason. It lookies awesome, but I think some are sleeping on co-op a little here. As the few who played it during the flight last month know, it is so well implemented and so damn fun. I cannot wait for the full version of this to drop. That, along with Forge and then Season 3 of multiplayer, and then Certain Affinities BR, this game's Resurgence is complete. Resurgence will be complete.
I think you read that wrong.
No, he said Esurgence.
It says Resurgence.
Oh, he edited it. He edited it after I took the screenshot, so doesn't matter. I say it all the time. Happens with the main podcast too. When I take a screenshot, you're locked in forever.
Sorry, JC brother.
Yes, I, as a huge PvE fan, absolutely adored the way co-op worked. I thought they nailed it in a way that not really any other big open world game had. In a way that Saints Row upcoming is kind of going to, where there's like a checklist of missions and you do them in co-op and you get the credit for that, instead of the Far Cry or the Borderlands, the host gets credit. Everyone else gets fucked. Yeah. Just the way they've got everything set up, so everyone gets everything when it's grabbed. It goes to the furthest behind mission thing, and it played really well, even though we were very spread out.
I mean, I was in.
Go ahead, sorry.
After we did the co-op stream, but man, that was I think that's probably the most fun I've had playing co-op on anything in years, and it was just we always talk about the sandbox and the grappling, the open world nature of the campaign, just with the havoc that 4 humans can get into. It was just so much fun. And I think Travis is absolutely right. I think people are sleeping on co-op a little bit, and when it hits and you start seeing the hilarity online from people's videos that they post, I mean, it's just gonna blow up, I hope.
And you talk about co-op, I almost feel like that starts making me think about PvE stuff. Just like more content. Because you're right, it is fun, and it'd be nice to figure out a way to continue that, because now the cool thing is that maybe they're just throwing out more skulls and things like that. I want to make some runs with just some specific weapons and try some of those variations. But I think there's going to be a lot of possibilities. I can't wait for them to turn up the AI on that, that kind of stuff. But there's it does highlight the sandbox. So thanks for at least letting us check off one word on the bingo card today.
Not losing your guns when you die is the best thing of all time.
Yeah, especially as frequently as you're likely to kill each other.
I mean,
on purpose.
Some of the functionality in this co-op almost I'm so torn on it, right? Like, it makes sense and I understand why and I can appreciate why, but some of the stuff that they've done with co-op this time makes it feel like even someone as jaded about it as I was at first, at least, can totally justify, like, oh, the delay was more than worth it. Like, I don't think that there was necessarily ever any question about that, but I think even people that are a little bit more negative are like, okay, like, I could see like, if a few extra months bought you the opportunity to make sure that this, like, diameter of reach is as big as possible. If me being able to keep my weapons after I die, tracking progress and skulls and doing all of that stuff, like, there's a lot going on.
The way the mission replay works so well,
right,
and
not just campaign missions, right? Like, all of the little things that you can do in the world. I think that if the delay bought them this time to do the stuff that they're doing with it, it's great. Will all of the things that Trev mentioned give the game a resurgence? I think it all depends on marketing, honestly, which is kind of a bummer. I think word of mouth is going to do a lot to help this game repopulate itself as time goes on. But as long as it's marketed well, then I think the Certain Affinity mode, co-op, and Forge will do a lot for this game's life.
It's funny you say that, because, like, I think about Rainbow Six Siege, right? And that's probably, I mean, I could list at least a dozen games within the past 4 years that have had massive resurgences, but, like, Siege is a perfect example of one that did so without any marketing from Ubisoft whatsoever. In fact, I would say that they probably did their damnedest to counteract that, but luckily the community really sung its praises after year one updates came out. And I think
they took an entire year off. It was like Operation Recovery or something.
Yeah, I can't remember what the name of that one was, but yeah, I mean it finally got good after about a year, and it blew up not because of any help from Ubisoft, but from the community itself.
Oh,
So
absolutely. And I don't. I guess I should say I don't think it's completely contingent on a strong marketing push. I just think that this is now the third Halo game that 343 has put out that hasn't been received super well. Um, on the whole, like, don't get me wrong, I think campaign did super well, and the campaign or the multiplayer is obviously fun, but it even for someone like me, it is kind of starting to feel in some regards like, is it worth me putting the time into? I'm not saying I would need to be convinced, but I think some people would need to see trailers on TV again, see trailers in front of their streaming services again to really be convinced that it's worth jumping into. But that's just my perspective on it. I could be completely wrong. Probably I am completely wrong.
No, I guess
I
we'll
agree.
wait and see. It's fun. It's fun. That's all I knew, but we'll have to wait and see how. Yeah, like what impact that actually will have. I'm still more. I think Forge is going to have 98% of the impact. My prediction.
Especially if it's a part of certain affinity. Like there'll be a handful of people who waited for co-op, but if you want to get in new people who weren't going to play otherwise, then having a big BR-ish type thing that streamers start playing and it's tied to this creation tool that then people get into. Because I mean that's a big thing that happened with Fortnite. My kids got really sick of playing Fortnite. They went Fortnite creative and just messed around. Like you need multiple things for little idiots with no attention span.
That's all my little guy likes with Fortnite. He went and got shot a few times. It's like, okay, I had enough of this, and then he just goes into builder mode and jumps around.
Sounds like Nick. Oh, it's too bad. I don't want to do that.
It's like he plays it. He likes it on easy mode.
I'm gonna go in and play right with them, But to be fair to Trav, I don't think I would say really quick. To be fair to Trav, I don't think he was saying co-op instead of Forge. He was saying in addition to Forge in season 3. So it wasn't a zero sum, more of an.
Yeah, because we just got a drop pod, so I wouldn't be surprised if Forge was the very end of August. Like not soon. They just did a patch.
Well, co-op isn't even in a game yet. Like we gotta wait until that's been released.
Yeah, so I don't think they're going to. What the fuck? Cool! I just got the review code for Moonscars. That's out of nowhere. I was not expecting that already.
That actually looks pretty cool.
Yeah, that doesn't come out for over a month. Yes, I got like a month and a half. Holy shit! That is not. I have everything has been a week at most lately, so I'm excited.
Nice.
It's a PC code, of course. They don't do Xbox codes early. Xbox is like, fuck you. All this shit is coming out broken. You are not getting through cert. Like, we got Tribes of Midgard coming next Tuesday, and Dan, they gave us a bunch of codes, but they are a press preview version, which doesn't normally happen on console. But it was because they're like, yeah, we know we're not going to be able to get the full thing through cert in time to give you more than a day with the game. So we literally took this 2-month-old press build, tightened it up. It's super buggy, but it won't crash your system. And Xbox said, okay, you can have that one. So that I had to make sure I said that. Like, this game's buggy as hell, but the version you get shouldn't be. But anyways, I'm excited.
Cool.
There's 9 games coming out in the next 2 weeks that we still don't have codes for. And I just got one that's a month and a half away.
You don't need to sleep, Jesse. All right. Well, let's get to the next question.
Sleep is for the week.
Yeah, so you can get some sleep.
The one from Mort is more like a pathetic, I'm sad, please give me something. Hello there, panel. Any PvE content on the horizon? Hugs.
I fucking hope so.
Anything soon is if people get really good at scripting you firefight type stuff in Forge. I don't think there's going to be anything from them until next year at the earliest, even if it's something small with our multiplayer Spartan getting to the ring and maybe having something small. Like, I wouldn't expect it to be fast. And they have so many games coming out next year, I don't think they're going to rush it.
Well, they had that one thing, and I don't remember if that was a leak or was official. The PvE, the mode with the going up against the brutes, right? It was on a map. It's not like a big thing. It's a small thing. But we said, I kind of said this, back before the game launched when we got to play in the tech preview. The bot AI was good for then, And Microsoft being this AI company that takes all this data and watches how people play and, can run this stuff off, clouds and all this other stuff. Like you would expect that is like an area where, and this is where Austin, I kind of come, like I look at it like as an opportunity. I know you always talk about PvE. Halo has a really great opportunity with PvE because they can make it feel dynamic with good, like really strong AI that even can evolve over time. So, yes, there's so much potential with it, and I feel like it is one of those things that is just like you just see all. It's like a lot of other things. You see all the pieces are there. This is a game that is absolutely has the foundation, the sandbox, the all the everything, the AI that you need. We talked about the co-op just a minute ago. Everything you need to make awesome PvE content. I'm hoping that the little taste we get is maybe they can still expand that, and maybe that expands into CA's mode. Who knows? I think a lot of it is building progression around it, so it's not just creating a gameplay. You got to create some reason why people are going to keep playing it, even if it's fun, right? Otherwise, people get bored. So, I hope so. I hope more, but I agree with the panel. I think it's not, or at least. I don't think it's something that's right around the corner. It's probably a little bit further off, but hopefully it's on the roadmap and they do take advantage of that opportunity.
And I do have some bad news. It's not a Moonscars. It's tied to the email I originally sent out for that. It's actually Midnight Fight Express. So I get a little bit of time.
Okay, cool.
I'll take it.
Cool. All right. Is that all our questions, guys?
Yep, those are all 3.
Okay. So I feel like hey, we moved at a good pace today, I feel like, mostly. And I think that wraps up
only one Blumpkin reference.
Yeah. I didn't get to talk about the 2,000 hours I played in Halo 5, so sorry if you came for that.
Hey, bingo!
But with that, now that we got all the bingos covered, Austin, why don't you go ahead and wrap us up?
Guys, thank you so much for watching and listening and enjoying and absorbing this week's episode of You Had Me at Halo. It's a very cool bi-weekly Halo podcast that we do bi-weekly, believe it or not. Jesse, if people really, really wanted to find out what you were working on next, but just like, my audio cut out, didn't hear what games you were reviewing, where can they find you talking about that online?
You can hear me bitch about it a lot, almost every day over on our Twitch channel, YouTube or twitch.tv/the XboxEra. I stream around 10 a.m. at least 2 or 3 times a week, sometimes more, depending on how things are going. Other than that, it's just check the forums. I talk about it all the time there. Forum.xboxera.com.
Daniel, what about you, man? Where can people keep up with you on the interwebs?
On Twitter, I was hoping my handle would be on screen, but apparently I'm Knottian by nature. Thank you, Trav, for that.
That was me. But yeah, it just said Knottian before. It didn't say digital scientist. I'm sorry.
Well, that's all good. Just find me on Twitter at digital scientist without the final I, and I'm also one of the mods on the forum, and I'm pretty active, especially now that things are a little bit more even keeled at home. So.
Very, very cool. I hope that the fur baby is feeling better now that she's back home.
Yeah, she's getting there.
Abe, my good friend, where can people hear you? I guess the better question is, how many podcasts are you doing this week, and is it less than 10?
Well, I actually
seem like less. Yeah, you've not been on that many lately. I noticed.
I had to take a break. I had balancing a lot of things. I had to get a breather in life. I am back on. I was actually I was actually on Boom's podcast yesterday. So if people are following me, go catch me on that show yesterday. We were talking about. How many?
Was like 15 people with you. Those can get pretty heavy.
And we were talking about some of the breaking news from the the ABK stuff. So that was fun. But yeah, if they want to find me, first of all, you can always find me on Halo. Usually I'll be yelling about the desync, but I still will be there. So feel free to join me. If
At
you
an actual Halo? Wow. I don't even know how to get there.
But you can also find me at on Twitter at @mutha_1, as you can see on the screen right here. And they are, when I do pop on a podcast, I will let you know. And as always, it was great catching up with you guys. Thank you, chat, for participating. And it's always, we always appreciate you.
Yeah. Well, guys, thank you again so much for watching and listening. I am Austin. You can find me on Twitter at AustinFordGames. It's up there on the screen for you, even. Thank you guys so much for watching. We will see you in the next episode. Have a great week.
Cheers.
Peace.